Shrunken Master jumping in with a shrunken head. Gonna find Tempest. Already about half-life. Puppet Master going in, but the Swift Slash is on him. Doing a lot of damage. Puppet Master barely survives. The Shockwave comes out. Shrunken Head mitigating plenty though. Miraxis, he's gonna pop the Matrix. We'll be fine for now. Oh my god, he's actually alive, but the Elemental Void catches everyone! And they clean them up.
What you got is like a boss. He's like, guys, just keep fighting. I got buybacks. They don't even know. And he just baits them all. And then he buys back, blinks in, meteor, 5-man holes, boom, team fight over.
Viva, here we go. Behemoth is gonna walk right next to Chronos. Shockwave comes out with the creep nearby. Chronos gonna be trying to swapped over from Andromeda. He leads the way, gonna be fine. Shadowstorm coming in. The big Tempest ultimate is not gonna be tough. Magnus jumped into it with the eruption. He does a lot of damage. Chronos Spear locking up Puppet Master as well. He locked in a lot of his teammates in the process, but I still think they should be able to secure this kill as they do. That is the AoE synergy coming together for Nullstone.
So, did that make you want to learn to play Tempest like a pro? Welcome everyone to a Tempest Jungle Educational. In this video, we are going to explain Tempest in detail, showing jungle rotations as well as tips and tricks for the hero to optimize your gameplay. Now, before we get started, I would greatly appreciate it if you like the content to smash that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. Thank you so much, and let's get started with the video. So we're going to start here by explaining Tempest's abilities in detail. So the first ability here is Glacial Blasts. It has a mana cost of 160 mana. Target an enemy unit to instantly blast it with ice. On each impact, deals 30, 50, 70, 90 magic damage to target and applies a 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, 1 second stun. Impacts a maximum of 3 times. Each impact occurs in 2-second intervals. So this is a single target spell that can stun the opponent up to 3 times. And it has a bonus effect here with the Staff of the Master upgrade, which changes the damage type to true damage. So it does not change it to a true damage cast spell. You cannot cast through magic immune opponents, but the damage going through will become true damage. So ability 2 here is Elemental. This is the fundamental and core spell of Tempest, which allows him to be a powerful jungler. Has a mana cost of 150. Target a creep unit to kill it and spawn 3 elementals that last for 35 seconds. After an elemental attacks 6 times, it will split into 2 elementals. The elementals have a ranged attack of 18, 24, 30, 36 physical damage and 240, 270, 300, 330 health. Level 1 of this ability cannot target allied units. So once this ability becomes level 2, 3, or 4, you can target your own team creeps to transform them into elementals. Only the level 1 does not do that. And this is again what we use to jungle. Very, very powerful for farming. It has a Staff of the Master effect once again. Damage type is changed to true. So if you have a Staff of the Master, the elementals, the auto attacks will be true damage, ignoring our opponents and structures armor types. So very powerful staff effect there as well. Third ability here is Meteor, has a mana cost of 140. Target an area to travel to the location and spawn a meteor. The meteor's flames last 8 seconds and deal 2, 3, 4, 5% of the enemy's max health as true damage per second. Goes on a 3-second cooldown when taking damage from enemy players. So this ability actually has a sub-ability, which it does not say here in the description, which allows you to cast at a location, and based on the level of this ability, the range will increase. At the level 4, it has a range of 1400, and you can jump to that location after a short delay. So it acts like a portal key effect, but on a bit of a cast time there. And this has a cooldown of 25 seconds. I might have forgot to go over the cooldowns here. So the cooldown on Glacial Blast was 15 seconds, and the cooldown on Elementals was 30 seconds. So big one to note here, the Elementals last for 35 seconds. They have a cooldown of 30 seconds, and you can target your own previous version of the Elementals to spawn new ones. Now we will go into the last ability, the most iconic ability of the hero Tempest here is Elemental Void. Mana cost of 375. Target a location to channel an Elemental Void in the area for up to 4 seconds. Enemies who are in the void are stunned, pulled toward the center, and take up to 200, 400, 600 magic damage. Now, this has a Staff of the Master effect once again. Damage type is changed to true and decreases cooldown to 120 seconds. Also automatically spawns a meteor at target location. If I'm not mistaken, as well here with the Staff of the Master effect, um, you can use the meteor while channeling the elemental void, so you can use elemental void and then the meteor, whereas without the Staff of the Master effect, casting meteor after the elemental void would in fact cancel your elemental void, as this is a channeling spell. So this has a range of 275 units and a cooldown of 140 seconds. So with the Staff of the Master, you would effectively lower this spell's cooldown by 20 seconds there. So very nice cooldown reduction, making it only a 2-minute cooldown. Very, very powerful and iconic spell here for Tempest. So these are the hero's abilities. I explained to you guys what the Staff of the Master effects do. Now let's go into some strengths and weaknesses of the Tempest. We'll talk about when you would like to pick up a Tempest in your games and when you want to try to avoid picking up a Tempest. So first we'll start with his strengths. So Tempest is a very fast farming jungler, which is the primary reason he is played as a jungler. He can also be played as a laning hero due to having the presence of his minions very powerful in the early stages of the game. But again, for the sake of this guide, we are going to be focusing on jungling here. So Tempest, he can farm he can level faster than the minute mark. So what that means is he can be level 6 before 6 minutes. So something like 4 or even 5 minutes, very, very common. He can be level all the way up to level 10 before the 10-minute mark. Somewhere's around level 8 to level 9 if you farm very, very quickly. So he farms very fast. Another strength of Tempest is he is very good at early game tower pushing, either be that by himself as a split pusher or with his teammates, as he will always have that threat of the elemental void if the opponent does go to defend those towers. The elementals splitting into 6, dealing 36 damage each. You can imagine that pushes towers very, very quickly. Um, Another strength of Tempest is he is very good against tanky enemy lineups. So if your opponent is stacking on strength heroes that like to build very bulky, guess what? Meteor does a percentage of the enemy's max health as true damage per second, and that lasts for up to 8 seconds. So that meteor, if they do sit in it for the full duration, they will take 40% of their max HP in true damage. Very, very strong for dealing high amounts of damage to very tanky lineups. One of the big ones here is Tempest is great at team fighting, and that is mostly due to abilities such as his Meteor and his Elemental Void being area of effect abilities. Now, the Glacial Blast is a single target spell, so this spell is a little bit more suited to ganking and single target hero killing, but the Meteor and the Elemental Void, very, very powerful for dealing lots of area damage in a team fight. And he is very good at controlling a team fight as well if you're able to land that Elemental Void on multiple targets. So he is a great team fighter with great team fight control. Um, when the opponent does not have a superior canceling hero to channel effects, the Elemental Void is a channeling spell. So once you get a Shrunken Head, you are able to channel that Elemental Void against any opponent that does not have a way to deal with canceling your hull through a Shrunken Head effect. Another strength here of the Tempest is he is a great counter-initiating hero to team fights. So if you have a primary initiator, for example here, we'll say a Magmus, he goes into the team fight, he stuns 2 or 3 enemies, the enemy team starts to group up on top of each other, and you as the Tempest come in with your Portal Key and your Elemental Void, and you lock down everybody. You counter-initiate that team fight. Tempest is very strong for baiting his teammates to go in and initiate and set him up for that big elemental void. So now we will talk about some of the weaknesses of Tempest, when it is not ideal to pick him up, and when he will have a much harder time doing what he likes to do, which is control those team fights with the Elemental Void. So when you face heroes with superior cancels to the to the channeling effect of the Elemental Void. So I will give you guys some examples here. Now there are very many heroes in Heroes of Newerth that can cancel Tempest Elemental Void through Shrunken, but I'm just going to name off a few just to give you guys an example. We have heroes like the Vindicator. He has Final Chapter. It goes through Shrunken Head. Very strong. We have heroes like the Moira with her Arcane Vortex that will automatically stop channel effects as soon as Tempest uses his Elemental Void. She puts that Arcane Vortex down, the hole is immediately cancelled. It will not continue once you come out of that Arcane Vortex. Heroes like Andromeda with the Void Rip. Void Rip is a physical type of spell which swaps the Tempest and her location, so that will stop an Elemental Void as well. We have heroes like King Clout that have an AoE effect style of Fear that will cancel your Elemental Void as well. Heroes like Keeper of the Forest. Tempest with Shrunken is using his Elemental Void. You can use that root to mini stun and break up that Elemental Void. And another one here, just for the sake of a single target one as well, would be the Tundra. The Avalanche is a stun that goes through magic immunity as well. Now this list continues. I could continue to rattle off heroes that can cancel Tempest Elemental Void if he has a Shrunken, but there are so many. These are just a few examples. Another example would be heroes with any kind of hook style effect. So that would be heroes like the Devourer, heroes like the Gauntlet, heroes like the Prisoner. All of these heroes have physical type hooks. Now the Gauntlets does deal magic damage, but it does still cancel the Elemental Void. So all of these are able to pull and move Tempest's location despite him having a shrunken head. And then lastly, we'll talk about heroes that are able to stop one of Tempest's other main powers, which is his pushing with his elementals, pushing those towers. So anti-push style heroes in the early game, heroes like the Alonia, which are very spam heavy, able to take out those 3 to 6 elementals that you have spawned pushing that tower. Alonia with the slows from the Glacial Spike and the Frigid Field. Being able to spam those on low cooldown, she is able to deal with those early game Tempest pushes. As well as heroes like the Behemoth. Tempest spawns 6 minions. Behemoth has a portal key. He will amplify his shockwave damage and deal massive damage in a team fight if you are trying to push head on into a Behemoth. Another one here, and I think this one could arguably be one of the strongest ones on the list, would be Riftwalker. She has lots of spam heavy AoE as well. I mean, they are on longer cooldowns, but the Cascade Event and Rift Burn in conjunction with each other, those will clean up the creeps almost instantly. And then throw on top of that the Wormhole, which does do a 2-second stun. This, or excuse me, you channel it for 2 seconds, it does a 2.5, and 2.25 and then 2.5 second stun. That is a superior stun that will cancel a Tempest Elemental Void. So Riftwalker, very good against Tempest. She can sit very far in the back, more or less 1.5 screens away from the team fight, and she can cancel that Tempest Elemental Void. So these are some of the scenarios where you would try to avoid picking up a Tempest, as it would be very difficult for you to get off that Elemental Void, but there are still many strengths to having the Tempest in your team, as he does do a lot of things very well, even if it is difficult for you to get off an Elemental Void. So now I would like to get into a practice mode game, which I have recorded for you guys. We're going to show you guys the jungle rotation up until we get to farm our key item here. So we'll go ahead and get the replay started. So I'll show you guys how to farm the most optimal way here with the Tempest. Now, a lot of the time, if you guys watch my stream, you guys will see that I like to buy Alchemist Bones on the Tempest. For the sake of this hero guide, I'm not going to show you guys the Alchemist Bones. I'm going to show you guys building a mana ring into or a ring of sorcery, excuse me, into sorcery boots, into a very early portal key. I'll showcase to you guys the timing of when you can get that portal key, and you can start to look to set up ganks with your elemental void. So again, we're going to buy here a Pretender's Crown, a Mark of the Novice. We're going to be working towards our Ring of Sorcery. We're going to need a couple of mana potions until we get to that point. And very important, as always, we save gold for Rev Wards because very often we get our camps blocked and we need to have Words of Revelation ready for that. So you will see me scouting the ramps here. I stand at different places. I've showed you guys this on some of my other guides as well. Ideally, we would have a ward of sight somewhere in the area showing if anyone enters our jungle. But for now, before the game starts, we're going to try to scout things out, see if our camps get blocked, and make sure to save gold. So we're going to start here by keybinding our hero to 1. As always, we always put our hero in control 1, and once we spawn the minions from our first creep camp, we are going to add the elementals to our group. We're going to make our own group with the elementals in just 2, so we'll have our hero and our elementals in 1, our elementals in just 2, and that way we will be able to micro the elementals separately from our hero here. So we're going to go ahead and buy that Amulet of the Exile recipe. This is the first piece towards our ring of sorcery, and we're going to buy an extra mana potion. So we're going to have 3 mana pots, and 3 mana pots should be enough. If you need a 4th or 5th mana pot, it is perfectly fine, but for the sake of getting the ring of sorcery as fast as possible, we should only need to have 3 mana potions. So I'm going to show you guys a trick here, or something that I want to explain here about the first camp. So we're going to start on the medium camp here. Now, very important here, we get an ogre camp. If we see here, the ice ogre has 600 HP and no armor. The alchemist ogre has 625 HP and 1 armor. And the fire ogre has 625 HP and 1 armor. So we want to use our elementals to transmute either the fire ogre here or the alchemist ogre, as they are the highest HP neutral creep as well as the ones with the most armor. So we never want to use it on the ice ogre here. So very important, we're going to go ahead and use that on the fire ogre, and then we're going to start to kill the ice ogre first. He will die the quickest, and then we will kill the alchemist ogre there. So right now, you can't see it from the replay point of view, but I'm keybinding everything. I have everything in control 1. I have just my elementals in control 2, and that's all we have so far is 2 control groups to keybind our elementals. And we're going to start doing the hard camp. We're going to pull the hard camp out outside the camp, and we're going to kill the skeleton king as the first creep. So important note to make here. Which camps do we want to farm as a Tempest? We always want to farm medium and hard camps because Tempest can do them as early as level 1, and they give us the most golden experience. We want to avoid this easy camp as much as possible because it gives us the least amount of XP and gold. And as always, as I show you guys in all my educationals, we do not touch this camp or this camp. We're going to leave these 2 camps for our support and our short lane to utilize pulling. We will only need to utilize these 4 camps, as this is plenty of farm for us, and it will give us the most optimal rotation. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to focus on the Skeleton King. We're going to try to micro our low elementals. It's okay if they die, but try to keep them alive as long as possible. And we want to kill this before the 1 minute mark here. So we kill the Skeleton King, the big one, and we pull the little undead warriors outside the spawn. So what happens here is we get the camp to respawn. This is perfect. We've respawned both of these 2 camps, and we've already killed 2 jungle camps by 1 minute. So we are halfway to level 3. So we spawn our next set of elementals here. And we're going to work on this medium camp first. We want to get our elementals to split before we work on the hard camp, which has a splash ability there with the Vagabond leader. So we're going to kill this. We're going to get level 3, and we're going to make sure to level up our elementals to level 2. We are going to be maxing out elementals first. This is our strongest ability for farming efficiency speed. We're going to max out the Glacial Blast as our second spell. Now you could get Meteor at level 4, but for the sake of jungling, you don't really need the Meteor. And if you are able to max out the Glacial Blast earliest to level 4, it will deal 270 damage total with the 3 amplifications of that stun. When we go to set up ganks, very, very strong. You can get the meteor at level 8 as well, or level 9. It is perfectly fine. But for the sake of things, we don't really need the meteor early on. Very important here, you see me, I'll actually rewind this and I'll show you guys really quickly here. What I do here is I don't want this Vagabond leader to use its spell, so I want to send 2 minions to attack it and the other 4 elementals and my hero off to the side. So what you can see I do here is I pull them away, and I have only these 2 here. I micro the low one. I'm going to micro that one once again. I try to keep them alive as long as possible. We're going to kill this Vagabond leader, and it never used its spell, and now we will resummon the minions here. So they did not take any damage, and we are on our way to our next hard camp now. We have 500 gold, and we are working towards our 950 pickled brain to make the Ring of Sorcery. So we're going to pull the hard camp out to here in between the 2 camps. We're going to kill the Vulture Lord first because it gives armor to the rest of the creeps. We're going to kill one of the Screechers. So this Screecher is about to die. We have our next set of elementals coming up in 4 seconds. We're going to leave this Screecher because it has 550 HP and 2 armor. And the creeps here in the easy camp have less than that. They have 450 and 400 with 1 armor. So very important. We're going to maximize which creep we convert here. We're going to start working on this camp, and then we're going to transmute the Screecher. So now we are level 4, a little over 2 minutes. We are 2 levels above the minute mark, and we're farming very, very well. We have 700 gold, and we've respawned the hard camp, which is very important. We can farm another hard camp. So once again, I'll just speed this up a little bit here, so you guys can see how I micro against the Minotaur camp here. I'm going to pull my hero and 1 elemental back, let 2 elementals go to the Minotaur. They're going to split up. It's okay that it stomps because they split now, so I can move the 2 weak ones back. Every time the Minotaur hits an elemental, I micro it back. And then from there, our creeps are strong enough to fight the Gotars. So we're at 2 minutes and 40 seconds here. We are about 75% to level 5. We're going to start on the medium camp here, and after we kill this Wild Hunter, we're going to be level 5 before 3 minutes, I believe. So we pull the creep out here, we make sure this respawns. Now, we were a little late to get this hard camp to respawn, which is okay. I believe if this wasn't a Wild Hunter camp, we might have been able to kill it in time, but we're going to kill this Catman first. And then, important here, we're going to leave this Catman soldier. He has 1000 HP. We will wait for our next transmute here. Conversion, I guess you call it. But you guys get the picture here, the elemental spell. We're going to work on this Wolf Commander camp, and once the cooldown is up, we will use it on the Catman Soldier. So we already had the 950 gold, so we have about a 3-minute Ring of Sorcery here, a little over 3 minutes. Very, very early, we're past level 5. At 3 minutes, we have our Ring of Sorcery already being delivered to us. We're going to go ahead and use that immediately, and as soon as the cooldown is up here, we're going to go ahead and convert the Catman Soldier, and we're going to finish off this medium camp. So we're getting very close to level 6. We should, at this rate, be level 6 before 4 minutes. And we'll start on the hard camp here once again. We'll move 1 creep back with our hero. We'll leave 2 minions there. It takes a hit or 2. We move it back. We micro every minion that gets hit by the Catman Soldier. Now he does use a splash there, but only on a couple of minions, so not too bad. I was attacking the soldier here, which I should have not done that. We're gonna go ahead and do the same thing there. We can convert the soldier with the elementals, and we finish off the easy camp here. So already under 4 minutes, we're past level 6. We have a Ring of Sorcery. We have 500 gold. We're gonna send ourselves Marchers now. I believe any second now we're gonna buy Marchers, and we're going to send. We have our Sorcery Boots already at 4 minutes. So great farm. And in a realistic game here, of course, we can camp the runes every 2 minutes. So we would farm a tiny bit slower, but we could help our mid laner out by camping the runes, which hopefully we will showcase that in the part 2 educational. But now that we have level 6 and we have our boots picked up on our hero, so we're not very slow, we're 365 movement speed. We can at any time from here forward look to set up a solo kill or 2 kills with an elemental void. So we could look to go middle. If our mid lane can help us set up an elemental void, we can go there. If our short lane has enemies fighting them past the river here, we can always look to set up elemental void. So we're level 7 now. Before the 5-minute mark, we're going to make sure to kill this outside the spawn. We use our elementals there. Both the camps are done. We want to always do the medium before the hard so these split a little bit easier to micro. So again, we're farming very, very well. We're 2 levels above the minute mark. As you can see here, I did it once again. We send 4 elementals and my hero away from the vagabond leader. We only send 2. You guys will need to just practice this micro. Once you get the hang of it, it'll become second nature to you. You might mess it up a little bit in the beginning, but that's okay. The more practice you get, the better you will do. Again, always kill the Vulture Lord first, gives armor to the rest of the creeps. We took over one of the little screechers. We're going to start working on this camp. We're going to hit level 8 here before 6 minutes. So this camp will die. We'll speed this up just a little bit here. The camp's going to respawn. We're going to wait for the hard camp here to spawn. It spawns a Vagabond leader. I am going to move a few creeps, spread them out. The Vagabond leader never uses its spell. That's always what we want. We take over the big Vagabond, not the little one there. And already we have 1,000 gold. We're 6 minutes into the game with our sorcery boots. 1,000 gold. So we're more or less halfway to our portal key. So we farmed, I believe we had the sorcery boots a couple of minutes ago. So we already farmed 1,000 gold. We are only a few minutes away from farming a portal key at this rate. We're farming very fast. And once we get that portal key, we're going to have a big threat here for our opponent to deal with our elemental void. So we can probably speed this up just a tiny bit. We're going to go ahead and kill the Skeleton King. We spawn there off of the little ones. And again, I could go here and I could farm these. It's not necessarily wrong, but we want to make sure to give that to our support to utilize pulling. So we're just going to wait here. If this was like the 6-minute mark, we would go camp the rune, for example, as we had a lot of downtime there. We start on the medium camp. We start now working on the hard camp. We try to not get the Minotaur to use his stomp, so we only let one minion take the focus. Did a good job there. Convert the next creep. Go back to the left side here. Excuse me. So we always micro the one getting hit by the Skeleton King. Try to keep them all alive, so we keep killing everything as quickly as possible. So again, we're gonna have a little bit of downtime. So what I would normally do in a real game is I would already be walking up the ramp here toward the rune. We would be able to be there by about the 8-minute mark. But again, we won't be showing any rune camping. So before I attack this, I move them backwards a bit. I spread them out so the Catman doesn't use its spell. And this one's gonna be tanky enough to split, so we don't have to move it. And there we go. We never triggered the Catman's stomp. We have almost 2,000 gold already here at 8 minutes. So we're going to have about a 9 or under 9-minute portal queue with sorcery boots. We're level 10 at 8:26. So we're about a minute and a half ahead schedule between the level per minute mark, which I was explaining to you guys in the strengths of Tempest. He's very fast at farming. We're going to use our Meteor here. We just hit level 10, so we waited all the way to level 10 to get Meteor. Again, we could get that at level 4. We could get it at level 8, level 9. It's technically not wrong to get it before level 10, so you can get it whenever you feel necessary, but I chose to max out Glacial Blast here. We killed all the camps, so we're going to wait for the 9 minutes to respawn the camp, and we're going to go ahead and work on the hard camp because we already split our elementals here. So we just got our portal key delivered at the 9-minute mark. We're level 10. We have our first core item picked up that allows us to leave the jungle and set up ganks and look to push towers if we want to as well. So I will just show you guys here up until level 11. We'll farm these last 2 camps. Gonna kill this one, work on this one, and then we were gonna convert the Screecher there as it's again the highest. Oh, okay, I guess I didn't do it there. Just gonna go ahead and convert this one. Now something I want to show you, so this is going to be the end of the jungle rotation. Something I want to show you guys, which we did not show in the jungling portion. The only time we would do this is once we're done with the early jungling portion. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the abilities here with the practice mode. any second now. So I refresh the abilities, and what you can do, because the cooldown here of the elemental is 30 seconds, your elementals last for 35 seconds here in the tooltip. So what we can do is we can use our elementals on our own previous existing elementals. I go ahead and rekeybind those. I add them to my control groups that we talked about. So again, everything in control 1 and then just the elementals in control 2. So if we want to move our hero back with F1 and can move our elementals separate from our hero depending on what we're doing. And then what we would do here, I'll show you guys that a little bit slower. So now that we have our portal key, we're level 11. We see there's an enemy hero mid. We want to gank with our teammate. So we're going to blink in. We're going to use our Meteor before we use Elemental Void. Very important. We want to maximize our damage. We get 4 seconds of Meteor in on that hero. So we're going to blink in. We're going to use our Meteor, and we're going to use our Elemental Void. So there's an enemy here. We make believe. And then we can also use our activatables while we are channeling Elemental Void. So if we had an Astrolabe, a Barrier Idol, a Shrunken Head, a Resto Stone, any of those abilities, we can use our Elemental Void and then cast them right after we use our channeling spell. So they will not cancel our Elemental Void. I'll show you guys the right there, 3, 2, 1. We use it, it does not cancel our Elemental Void. So that is going to do it here for the jungle rotation. So I showed you guys you could get level 11 under 10 minutes, I believe. So again, Tempest farms very quickly. Very, very powerful jungler. Brings that Elemental Void to the presence of the team fights. And now that we showed you guys the jungle rotation, I want to show you guys some of the late game item build decisions. So we'll go into another practice mode game here. This is for visual effects. I'm going to make it nice and easy for you guys to see the different item builds. I'm going to showcase to you guys 3 different item builds here that I would consider buying on a Tempest. And the thing about Tempest is he's very straightforward in the sense that you're going to typically be buying a lot of the same items. Your item builds don't really change too much, but I'll show you guys a couple of different ones. Let me just get the item build here finished. Okay, so this is item build number 1. And this is what I like to call the no shrunken cancel to your alt build. I know that sounds kind of weird, but basically, if the opponent does not have those superior canceling effects to channeling abilities, aka your elemental void, this is the item build we're going to want to focus on because this allows us to guarantee that we get off our elemental void on whomever we want to lock down in a team fight. So the way we would do this build is, now I did not talk to you guys about Alchemist Bones too much, but I showed you guys just the sorcery boots into portal key build, which is very good. I like to go Alchemist Bones. You'll see me do it on my stream a lot. And the reason why I like to go Alchemist Bones is because a lot of the times when you play Tempest, you're playing for the late game and you want your hero to scale as much as possible. You can always get the portal key shrunken head at a very good timing around the 20 to 23 minutes without the alchemist bones. But if you go the alchemist bones, you're going to get these items a little bit slower, but you're going to allow yourself to get that restoration stone at around like the 35 to 40 minute mark, or perhaps even sooner depending on your farm. So basically the alchemist bones allows us to play for late game a little bit better and get that restoration stone and perhaps even something like a staff of the master. So that's my take on the alchemist bones. Why I like to get it personally. You can try practicing getting the alchemist bones yourself and see if you like that, but for the sake of a little bit more of a beginner's guide to playing Tempest, you want to focus on the Ring of Sorcery or the Sorcery Boots into that early portal key so that you can be very effective in the early stages of the game. So again, we'll go back to this item build. We'll just talk about this. So I would go the Sorcery Boots first. We would get that by around 3 minutes, which you guys saw in the jungle rotation. We would then build into Striders. We would not send our Marchers right away. We would make sure to farm that extra 200 gold and get the full Striders so we don't make them into Sorcery Boots. And then we would go Alchemist Bones into Portal Key. So I showed you guys we could get like a 9 or under 9 minutes Portal Key. If we go the Alchemist Bones, we would get Portal Key by around 13 or 14 minutes, depending on how well you farm. So The portal key will come a little bit slower, but we will have an extra item on top of that. We will have the Alchemist Bones, helping us get to late game. Then we would get our Shrunken Head by around 20 to 24 minutes, somewhere in that time frame, and then we would more or less be able to lock down anybody of our choosing. So this is going to be item build number 1. Um, Item build number 2 here, we change up some items. So this item build, this is what I like to call the tanky team fight build. So the time when you want to go this item build is when you're facing enemies, multiple enemies that can cancel your elemental void through a shrunken head. So essentially, it's going to be very difficult for you to get your elemental void off. We want to build into these tanky team fighting items in the early game. We want to build after our sorcery boots into an astrolabe and a barrier idol. This is going to make us very tanky. And what happens is a lot of the time, because we are a Tempest, we are the main focus in the team fights. If the enemy does not focus us, they always have to be aware of the threat of our Elemental Void, which can single-handedly win us team fights. So they will always be looking to focus us as the primary target. And if we are very, very tanky with heals and lots of armor, it's very hard for them to deal with us on top of dealing with our 4 allies. So this is a very strong item build for bulking up, being very hard to kill, and then allowing us to get that elemental void off very late into a team fight. So we would build those items first, then we could build into our core items of Portal Key, Shrunken Head, and something like either a Resto Stone or a Staff of the Master. So here you'll see me swap out the Resto Stone for a Staff of the Master. So with this item build, we would only have 1 ultimate instead of 2, but we would have a lower cooldown. We would have 2-minute cooldown instead of 140 seconds, and all of our abilities would be dealing true damage. Very, very strong staff effect. Staff of the Master on Tempest is very, very powerful. Okay, so that is item build number 2. We are going to swap it out to the last item build I want to show you guys, which I like to call this one the aggressive ganking build. So with this item build, we do not go for a Ring of Sorcery or Sorcery Boots. We would start with a Chalice. We would build into a bottle as our second item. We would look to camp runes every 2 minutes, make sure we deny runes from the enemy. This would mean that we would need to take the runes closest to our jungle, and our mid laner would have to give them up to us and either go to the other rune or not play for runes. And then we would go into Ghost Marcher, so we'd have a lot of early game mobility as well as auto attack damage. We can, with this build, look to max out the Glacial Bass very early on. So that way we are setting up those ganks and dealing lots of damage. And we can build into items like Energizer, which buff up our creeps with the attack speed and movement speed. So we give a big buff to our elementals for those solo kills. With our Glacial Blast, dealing lots of damage. And then we can build into items like Portal Key and Shrunken Head for some mobility and team fight presence there to get off our Elemental Void. So this is a little bit of a different style of build. You can try this one out if this one interests you as well. A little bit more of an aggressive style of build if you don't like to sit back and farm and be very passive with your Tempest. So these are the 3 item builds that I would suggest that I think are good and viable. Now I'm going to talk to you guys. So actually, wait, before we finish this, we'll go ahead and show you one more thing here. Excuse all the noises there. I'm going to show you guys again some tips and tricks of the Tempest here. I'm going to go ahead and spawn, I believe, an enemy here. We're going to give him a couple of Behemoth Hearts so we show you guys how tanky he is. And remember, Tempest with Meteor deals true damage based on their max health. So you're going to see here the power of the Tempest, how much damage he can deal to, in this case, we have a almost 7,000 HP Arachna. So I'm going to show you guys how you want to combo with a Tempest. You want to blink in, you want to use your Meteor and then your Hole, and always make sure to use Shrunken Head. I'm going to use the Shrunken Head, I think, at the end here, only because I know nobody is around to cancel. But ideally, we would Portal Key in, Shrunken, and then Meteor Hole, or Shrunken Head, Portal Key in, Meteor, and then Hole. So you see me use Meteor and Hole. We use Shrunken. Now we have a Restoration Stone, so we can use the Restoration Stone while using that first ultimate. We're going to drop another Meteor, and then we're going to use that Elemental Void once again. And once the Shrunken Head comes off cooldown, we can use our Shrunken Head once again, so right there. And we can use our Sorcery Boots as well while using Hull. I didn't show that there, but you saw how much damage we did to the Arachna. This is without any of our teammates attacking the Arachna. We would generally have a carry here, dealing tons of damage. We almost killed the Arachna with a couple Meteors and Elemental Voids. So that is how you combo with the Tempest. And I believe that that will do it there for that little replay. Now again, I'll show you guys the late game item builds here. Late game item decisions, rather. So first one would be Nullstone. So when would we get a Nullstone? This is a very situational item build, item pickup. We would get this versus global abilities that stop our portal key or that cancel our ultimate. So against heroes like the Vindicator, who has Final Chapter, his silence goes through Shrunken Head, we would need a Nullstone to block that silence effect from canceling our Elemental Void. If we are against a hero like Sandwraith, he has the Mirage. If he this isn't a great example, but if he is causing us to not be able to use our portal key, let's say he had a Mock, which isn't a very meta item on Sandwraith anymore, but it used to be back in the old times, we would need a Nullstone against Sandwraith because he would just deal so much damage to us with that illusion. We would have no way of killing that Mirage illusion, and it would stop our portal key from allowing us to counter initiate in those team fights. So those are a couple examples um, when we would want to pick up a Nullstone, or if we are against some of those single target effects, like for example a Tundra Avalanche is a good one. If we have both a Shrunken Head and a Nullstone, it would be very difficult for a Tundra to cancel our Elemental Void. Next would be a Sheepstick. So Sheepstick, when would we get a Sheepstick? We would get a Sheepstick after a Restoration Stone if we want extra lockdown to stop Shrunken Heads. So our Elemental Void does work against Shrunken Head opponents. It does deal magic damage though, however, and it will disable them, but it will not allow our teammates to do magic damage. So if we have a Sheepstick on top of a Shrunken Head and a Resto Stone, we can jump in with a Sheepstick and an Elemental Void, and then we can get our magic damage in, as opposed to just locking them down in place with their Shrunken activated. Next would be a Staff of the Master. So when would we want a Staff of the Master? Again, this is more of a late game item, but this we would want this to deal to make all our abilities deal true damage, as well as having shorter cooldown on our ultimate. So having the staff makes the cooldown go from 140 seconds at level 3 to 120 seconds. Big difference of 20 seconds. It does add up. Sometimes in the late game, when you have Elemental Void on cooldown, it forces your team to play very defensively until that big cooldown comes back up. With the Staff of the Master picked up, it comes up a lot sooner. It's a very, very good pickup. It buffs all of your abilities up to true damage. The Meteor already being true damage, so all 4 abilities dealing true damage. Very, very strong. And then lastly, items like Post Haste. We pick this up to have global presence in order to either use our ultimate for solo kills or to surprise the enemy with our allies setting up ganks across the map. Very, very strong in late game to have Post Haste on the Tempest, as he has a very strong lockdown tool against like Shrunken Heads and stuff. So very, very strong. Again, items like Tablet and Void Talisman, these are very situational items. We'd pick up a Tablet of Command against a hero like Pharaoh, who's a very good counter to our hero with both the Hellfire having lots of mini stuns, excuse me, as well as the Wrath of the Pharaoh, his ultimate. I talked about hook heroes in the weaknesses of Tempest. I did not mention Pharaoh, but with his Wrath of the Pharaoh, that does cancel our Elemental Void, and he'll lock us down in mummies. So Tablet of Command, very good against a hero like Pharaoh. And then Void Talisman if we're facing these strong physical damage heroes that just sit on us and kill us early game, and we're not able to get off our Elemental Void. Yeah, these are very situational style items, and this is gonna conclude the late game item choices. So lastly, I'll finish off with some tips and tricks about the Tempest that I didn't mention showing you guys. So I talked to you guys about using the ultimate early game when it's off cooldown. You use it for either solo kills or for two-man kills. If possible, in that short lane with your teammates, you want to use your ultimate as often as possible because it does have a long cooldown. And don't be afraid to use it for solo kills to net yourself a kill or help your teammates in order to push a tower in the early game. I talked about using Meteor before you Elemental Void after you PK in. This will optimize and give you the most damage output. Very important to try to Meteor before using your Elemental Void. I showed you guys how to micro your elementals against those hard camps. This will take a lot of practice, but once you guys get it down, it'll become like second nature to you guys. Only send 2 units over to those creeps with the splash type effects and move 4 of your elementals and your hero off to the side. So you'll have to practice on that. And a big one is when you're playing in the late game, always have patience before using your Elemental Void. Do not try to rush your ultimate. Now, this doesn't mean you need to get 4 or 5 enemies in your Elemental Void. That's not what I'm trying to tell you. Just try to count the enemy's abilities. Wait for their stuns to be out. Wait for them to try to group up at least 2 or 3 people. And if you can get 2 or 3 people in your Elemental Void, that is generally good enough to win you and your team a team fight. So have a lot of patience. Don't rush your ultimate. You will get that Elemental Void to come online. Another one is having the threat of having your Elemental Void off cooldown a lot of the times is much greater than using your ultimate very poorly. So when we're in the mid and late game, a lot of the times you don't want to use your Hole or your Elemental Void for a solo kill, and that's perfectly fine. If you use the Elemental Void to kill a hero like a support or something, a lot of the times it won't be worth it. Now this is strictly in the mid and late game. So it's very important. The enemy will play very scared. They will always be afraid to group up against you if you have your Elemental Void off cooldown. And a lot of the times just that threat alone is more powerful than using your ultimate in a very poor manner. So it's actually very important to not use your ultimate in poor situations. So I think that's going to conclude for the part 1 here, guys. If you enjoyed the educational, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And later I will be doing a part 2, which you guys can check out, where I will analyze the replay, explaining to you guys my decisions that I made throughout the match.
Something big. Kronos finna start things off. Valkyrie gonna be jumping right on the mat. There's a Talbot, though. She's gonna be fine. She leads away. Behemoth with a counter. Shockwave coming out. Andromeda, though, with the swap. Or no, she hasn't used it just yet. Kronos being locked down. But the lifesteal kicking in. The Tempest ultimate. What you got says, take this, bitches. Puppet Master, though, Shrunken Head comes out, the release Kraken as well, but the stun from Madness, that Puppet Master goes down, a hat trick for Beaver Banger, the immediate buyback, but a quad kill for Beaver Banger. He's going for the annihilation, a leap away from Valkyrie. There goes the well, there's the second ultimate, No Stone Gaming, GG, well played. Game 1 goes to them in annihilation to finish things off in classic fashion right there.
Oh my god, Breaking, what you got, man. I mean, I talked about it before, he was making some clutch plays, but fucking hell, man. I'm not even joking. Give that guy a medal. Give that guy a medal. Holy, oh my god, what you got, man. Freaking god.
That was huge. What you got, landing so many big Tempest ultimates there, including the biggest ones at the very end. Clutch players make clutch plays, and that's exactly what we saw right there. How about the aggressive play? I mean, what was a very